The flickering light of a fire dances across cave walls, illuminating a figure lost in rhythmic breathing. Deep in a primordial cave, a shaman enters a trance, his breath a gateway, his dreams a map. This isn't just an act, it's a foundational moment where the physiological intertwines with the spiritual. For these ancient peoples, the very act of breathing wasn't merely survival, but a direct connection to a life force, a spirit, an animating principle. And their dreams? Not random nocturnal wanderings, but potent messages, divine blueprints, or even journeys of the soul itself. We begin our investigation here. How did these seemingly subjective, visceral experiences, breath and dreams, become the forgotten architects of humanity's concept of an inner self? Imagine the world of our ancestors, tens of thousands of years ago, a world where the boundaries between the physical and the spiritual were porous, where every rustle in the leaves, every ripple on the water held potential meaning. In this immersive reality, the human body was not merely a biological machine, but a vessel for profound experiences. The act of breathing, a constant involuntary rhythm, was undeniably linked to life itself. When breath ceased, life ended. It was an observable, undeniable truth. Anthropological studies and interpretations of ancient rock art from sites like the Chauvet Cave in France or the San rock art in southern Africa suggest that early humans engaged in rituals involving altered states of consciousness. These states were often induced through repetitive drumming, chanting, and, crucially, controlled breathing techniques. The shaman, a central figure in these societies, was seen as a bridge between worlds, capable of journeying to the spirit realm, often described as a flight of the soul or a descent to the underworld. This journey was frequently facilitated by intense breathwork, leading to hyperventilation or controlled breath holding, inducing physiological changes that mirrored spiritual transcendence. Simultaneously, the nocturnal world of dreams offered another, equally compelling window into an inner reality. Unlike the waking world, dreams defied logic, presented impossible scenarios, and often felt profoundly real. For early humans, these vivid, often unsettling experiences could not be dismissed as mere random brain activity. Instead, they were interpreted as direct communications from ancestors, spirits, or even nascent deities. Dreams were seen as prophecies, warnings, or guidance for hunting, healing, or social harmony. The ability to interpret these dreams became a specialized skill, elevating certain individuals to positions of spiritual authority. Mirza Eliade, in his seminal work on shamanism, details how the shaman's initiation often involved dream visions and symbolic death and rebirth experiences, solidifying the belief that dreams were not just mental phenomena, but actual journeys of the spirit. The dream soul was thought to leave the body during sleep, venturing into other dimensions, interacting with other entities, and bringing back vital information for the community. The very concept of something leaving the body during sleep, yet remaining connected to it, laid the groundwork for the idea of a separable, non-physical essence, a proto-soul. This primal understanding of breath as a life-giving spirit and dreams as experiences of a traveling inner essence was not confined to a single culture. Across continents, indigenous traditions developed similar frameworks. In North American indigenous cultures, the breath of life was a sacred concept, often linked to the Great Spirit, and vision quests, sometimes induced through fasting and specific breathing, were paramount for individual identity and spiritual guidance. In ancient Siberian shamanism, the spirit journey, or dom, was often described as a flight, where the shaman's soul would temporarily depart the body. These universal patterns highlight a fundamental human impulse to make sense of the invisible forces that animate life and the mysterious landscapes of the mind. The tension between the tangible act of breathing and the intangible experience of dreaming created a profound philosophical challenge. What is this thing inside us that breathes, that dreams, that lives beyond the physical? It wasn't a question of belief versus doubt in a modern sense, but a lived reality, an existential inquiry born from direct experience. The insights gleaned from these early encounters with breath and dreams were not abstract philosophical constructs. They were practical tools for navigating a world teeming with unseen forces, for understanding illness, for predicting the future, and for defining what it meant to be a conscious being. This initial blueprint, sketched in firelight and shadow, provided the very first conceptual framework for an enduring mystery, the nature of the inner self. How did these nascent ideas evolve into the more complex and formalized soul concepts of later, grander civilizations? Building on that primal connection between breath and spirit, we trace how diverse ancient civilizations formalized these ephemeral ideas, creating sophisticated frameworks for understanding the inner self. As societies grew more complex, so too did their spiritual anatomies. We move from the flickering cave fire to the sun-drenched banks of the Nile, where the meticulous preparations for the afterlife revealed an intricate understanding of the human spirit. In ancient Egypt, the concept of the soul was not a singular entity, but a multifaceted collection of spiritual components, each with its own function and destiny. The Ka and Ba stand out as particularly illustrative. The Ka was the life force, the essential vital energy that animated the living body. It was often depicted as a double of the individual, born with them, and sustained by nourishment, both physical and spiritual. Crucially, the Ka was intrinsically linked to breath. Its presence meant life, its departure, death. When an individual died, elaborate funerary rituals, including offerings of food and drink, were performed to sustain the Ka in the afterlife, ensuring its continued existence. This wasn't merely symbolic. It reflected a deep belief that the life-sustaining breath, the Ka, required ongoing sustenance to persist beyond the physical body's decay. The tension here lies between the apparent cessation of life and the fervent belief in its continuation through these spiritual components. Alongside the Ka was the Ba, often translated as the personality or soul bird. The Ba was the mobile aspect of the individual, capable of leaving the tomb and traveling freely between the land of the living and the realm of the dead. It was frequently depicted as a human-headed bird, embodying the ability to soar. This is where the ancient understanding of dreams finds its formal expression. When a person slept, their Ba was believed to be journeying, experiencing other realities, and interacting with deities or deceased loved ones. Dreams were not just passive mental events, they were active excursions of the Ba, offering glimpses into the afterlife or messages from the divine. The meticulous records of dream interpretations found in papyri, such as the Chester Beatty papyrus, demonstrate how central dreams were to Egyptian life, influencing decisions from personal well-being to state affairs. The tension between the fixed, enduring nature of the Ka and the fluid, traveling nature of the Ba highlights the complexity of their inner self-conception. Across Mesopotamia, in the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates, another sophisticated system of dream interpretation flourished. Cuneiform tablets from Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian civilizations meticulously record dream omens and their interpretations. Priests, known as Messi, were highly skilled diviners who specialized in understanding the symbolic language of dreams. They believed dreams were divine communications, often sent by specific gods, or sometimes by malevolent spirits. These weren't just personal messages. Dreams could foretell the fate of kingdoms, dictate military strategies, or reveal the cause of illness. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the earliest surviving works of literature, features multiple dreams that drive the narrative and reveal character destiny. For the Mesopotamians, the Mushu, or dream state, was a vital pathway to knowledge and power. Their belief system blurred the lines between subjective experience and objective reality, treating dream events with the same gravity as waking ones. The inner self here was deeply permeable, constantly receiving and transmitting information from the cosmos through the nightly drama of dreams. The philosophical debate centered on distinguishing between good and bad dreams and the correct rituals to appease deities or avert ill omens signaled in the dream world. Moving eastward to the ancient Indian subcontinent, early Vedic traditions articulated a profound connection between breath and consciousness through the concept of prana. In texts like the Upanishads, prana is not just physiological breath, but the universal life force, the vital energy that animates all existence. It is the breath of the cosmos, the essence of consciousness itself.
Within the human body, prana is the breath that sustains life, and its regulation through practices like pranayama was understood as a direct means of connecting with the deeper self, or Atman. The Atman, often translated as the individual soul or self, was believed to be an eternal, unchanging essence, ultimately identical with Brahman, the universal consciousness. Here, the breath isn't just a carrier of spirit, it's a manifestation of the divine within. Dreams in Vedic thought were also significant, often seen as a state where the Atman experiences other worlds, or as a reflection of karmic imprints. The dream state, Namadrina, was one of the 4 states of consciousness described in the Mandukya Upanishad, illustrating its importance in understanding the full spectrum of human experience. This tradition offered a deeply philosophical interpretation. The inner self, the Atman, was not merely a product of physical processes, but an eternal spark, revealed and accessed through the disciplined mastery of breath and the understanding of consciousness's varied states. These cultures, though geographically disparate and culturally distinct, shared a profound insight. The inner self wasn't a given, a mere biological byproduct, but an experience shaped and revealed by breath and the nightly theater of dreams. They developed intricate ritualistic and philosophical systems to engage with these phenomena, transforming subjective sensations into objective spiritual realities. The tension between the ephemeral nature of breath and dreams and the enduring structures built around them underscores humanity's deep need to define its own essence. How did these diverse ancient understandings coalesce, or diverge, into the more unified concept of the soul in later Abrahamic and Eastern traditions? And what role did philosophical inquiry play in this grand synthesis?
Extending that inquiry into the soul's evolving definition, we find a medieval philosopher, quill in hand, meticulously detailing the nature of the anima, or soul, within a monastic scriptorium. The flickering candlelight casts long shadows as he pores over ancient Greek texts, attempting to reconcile Plato's profound insights with the burgeoning doctrines of Abrahamic faiths. This was an era of intense intellectual ferment, where the concept of the soul moved from localized, multifaceted ancient understandings to more unified, yet fiercely debated philosophical and theological constructs that would define Western and parts of Eastern thought for millennia. Plato, centuries earlier, had introduced the concept of the psyche, the rational soul, immortal and pre-existent, trapped within the mortal body. For him, the soul was the seat of reason, emotion, and desire, aspiring to return to the realm of forms. This Hellenistic philosophical framework profoundly influenced early Christian theologians who grappled with integrating Plato's immortal soul with the biblical accounts of humanity's creation and resurrection. The Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, each developed rich and complex understandings of the soul, often linking it directly to the divine breath. In Genesis, God breathes life into Adam, making him a living soul. This divine breath, or spirit, becomes the animating principle, suggesting a direct, intimate connection between the human inner self and the Creator. Christianity further developed the concept of an immortal soul destined for salvation or damnation, a central tenet influencing ethics, morality, and the very purpose of human existence. Debates raged for centuries. Is the soul created at conception or infused later? Is it distinct from the body or intrinsically linked? These questions were not mere academic exercises. They shaped legal codes, social structures, and individual spiritual practices. Islam, too, emphasizes the ruh, which is breathed into humanity by God, as described in the Quran. The ruh is considered a divine secret, a gift from Allah, and is distinct from the nafs, which can be purified or corrupted. Islamic mystics, particularly the Sufis, developed sophisticated practices of breath control and dream interpretation to cleanse nafs and draw closer to the divine ruh, echoing the ancient shamanic and Vedic traditions of breath as a spiritual conduit. The Sufi master Rumi often spoke of the breath as a vehicle for divine connection, a whisper from the beloved. Yet, as these traditions solidified the notion of a permanent, individual soul, another profound philosophical current emerged in the East, challenging its very premise. Early Buddhism, particularly with the teachings of Siddhartha Gautama, presented the radical concept of anatta. Rather than an enduring, unchanging soul or self, Buddhism posits that what we perceive as self is merely a temporary aggregation of 5 interdependent components:
form, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. There is no permanent, independent I that persists. The suffering inherent in existence, according to the Buddha, arises from clinging to the illusion of a separate self. This wasn't a denial of consciousness or individual experience, but a profound reframing of identity, emphasizing impermanence and interconnectedness. This perspective offers a stark contrast to the Western and Abrahamic emphasis on an eternal soul, forcing us to ask, if there is no permanent self, what then is the blueprint? What is being invented? Perhaps it is the unhawking of self continually arising and passing, rather than a fixed entity. Today, the ancient wisdom embedded in breath and dreams endures, not only in religious practices, but also in secular, scientific, and psychological domains. Modern psychology, particularly the analytical psychology of Carl Jung, still explores dreams as a potent language of the unconscious mind. Jung's concepts of the collective unconscious and archetypes suggest that dreams tap into universal patterns of human experience, resonating with ancient beliefs about shared spiritual realms. Dream analysis remains a core therapeutic tool, helping individuals uncover hidden conflicts, desires, and pathways to integration. Simultaneously, breathwork practices, ranging from mindful meditation and conscious breathing techniques to intense holotropic breathwork sessions, are experiencing a global resurgence. These practices, often stripped of their overt religious connotations, are rediscovered as powerful tools for stress reduction, emotional regulation, and accessing altered states of consciousness for self-exploration and healing. Neuroscientific research is beginning to map the physiological and psychological impacts of breath control, showing how it can influence brain waves, heart rate variability, and even gene expression, validating what ancient mystics intuitively understood. The breath is a profound interface between body and mind, a direct pathway to influencing our inner state. The soul's blueprint isn't a single static design, but a dynamically evolving concept, constantly redrawn by human experience, philosophical inquiry, and scientific discovery. From the shaman's trance to the medieval philosopher's contemplation, from the radical non-self of Buddhism to the contemporary quest for consciousness in neuroscience, the simple act of breathing and the enigmatic language of our dreams have remained the crucible for humanity's deepest sense of self. This journey reveals that our understanding of what it means to be you is a continuous, profound investigation, deeply rooted in the primal wisdom of our ancestors and ever unfolding in the modern mind. The forgotten blueprints were never truly forgotten. They were simply waiting for us to reread them, to breathe them back into life.